right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our organizational meeting on October 1st. Yes.
That was an echo.
Got it. Okay, so again, welcome to our organizational meeting on October 1st, 2020. Beginning with our meeting as per usual, we will call to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we'll begin our organizational meeting with our resolutions. We'll begin with resolution number 1. I make a motion to resolve that Charlene Cagle-Betts be appointed to village administrator, village clerk, and village treasurer pursuant to Village Code sections 3-10, 3-11C for an annual compensation of $170,000 to a term expiring on June 30th, 2022, or such adjusted term as shall comply with the second reorganizational meeting following her appointment. Is there a second?
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Trustee Polaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand that there were changes made for this, and I just want to understand if we know the full extent of what is being proposed from a tax standpoint to the village going forward with regards to the increase in salary and with regard to pension benefits going forward. Because I certainly don't know that what the extent is, and I just wanted to see if that has been looked at or thought of. I do know that we're getting her for less than what the previous administrator was. And I know that she will be taking on all responsibilities now, which I found out with the new agenda that was going on. But I wanted to see what the village's responsibility will be, because I gather she will probably retire from Southampton Village in the next. I mean, it was East Hampton was going to be another couple of years, but another couple of years for Southampton Village, and just what that would mean for our taxpayers.
Well, Brian, would you mind maybe helping us answer that question? I could also provide some analysis as well.
Sure. So with regard to the pension benefits, she would just have the salary component as earned here in Southampton. So, you know, the pension is funded by the state comptroller and the retirement benefit fund. So whatever the component would be, that she'd have the component that she was while she was earned benefits for the village. That would be our obligation.
Okay, so that's the salary just for the last couple of years that she is okay in place.
And again, just assuming that this may not be an employee's last stop. You know, there may be 2 other stops down the road, perhaps. Who knows with you know, career trajectories, but it's not like tag, you're the last one.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's good to know, because yeah, just the 54% increase in salary. You know, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a sole hit for our village taxpayers in the future.
Good question.
Okay.
Quickly, Mr. Mayor, it says here, second reorganizational meeting. Is that going to be happening soon, or why is a second reorganizational meeting happening? I just picked that up.
I can also take that question. Like with everything with COVID, we are kind of through the looking glass on terms. As this board knows, certainly the veterans on the board, should I say now, know that they had the longest term of their life and the longest village election in this last 2020. So what is not perfectly clear from the governor's order is that and again, all of us are keeping our fingers crossed that there will be a June election, timely June election. And that was our hope last June as well. But those were dashed on the rocks of the pandemic. So now the next hope is we have a June election, and you'll see later in one of the appointments, for instance, for the deputy mayor, that will run through that reorganization. The position of clerk and treasurer under village law are 2-year terms. So the thought was to put this out to the June 30th, 2022, meaning that would be 1 and 2 reorganizational meetings, 2 full terms, or such other readjusted second reorganizational date that would happen. If this was a normal reorganization, we would have had it in June. So it's a roundabout way to say we're just covering ourselves just in case something happens with the pandemic, or the governor's executive order gets interpreted in some other way to say that normal 2-year term under state village law does not apply.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. That explains that.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any other discussion items? Brian, do we need to, should we go one by one, or should it be an all in favor? Aye.
I would have a vote on each. I would call, you have a motion and a second, I would call a vote on each resolution.
Okay. Okay, we'll go for a vote. Trustee Aresta,
Aye.
Trustee McLaughlin,
Aye.
Trustee Polaro,
Aye.
Trustee Parrish.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. We can now move to the next resolution.
Mayor Warren, are you voting?
Yeah, Mayor, you want to call your vote as well?
That's right. Aye. Resolution number 2. I'd like to make a motion to resolve that the treasurer be and hereby is appointed and authorized to make transfers between the appropriation accounts during the year. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Do we need a second?
Was there a second?
Yes, Andrew did.
Okay,
No.
thank you, Andrew, for your second.
No, well, there was no second. I'm asking if we needed a second because
Yes, we do need a second.
resolution to the asking for a vote.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, I did not realize you didn't make the second. So is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Parrish. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Be it resolved that Southampton Press be and hereby is designated as the official newspaper, and that Newsday be and hereby designated as an additional communication media publication of legal notices and similar matters. I make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees meetings will, unless otherwise announced, be held in the boardroom as follows: monthly meetings at 6 p.m., second Thursday of each month, and a work session the second Tuesday following the first monthly meeting. I make that motion. Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Quick discussion. Just wanted to thank Trustee McLaughlin for his suggestion for the work session. Thank you, Joe. I think this will be a big help to our entire board to be able to flesh out some meetings and some ideas in advance rather than having the 2 regular meetings as we've done in the past. So thank you. We owe you a lot of credit for that one. All in favor?
Discussion?
Discussion, Andrew?
Discussion. And I thank you, Joe. I know it was one of your campaign promises, but it's also something that this board talked about long before. So, but I would like to just clarification on the work session, because if there are resolutions that are needed to be passed, those can be done within work sessions, correct?
Correct.
Do those sessions then, do they need to be noticed to the public that we will be passing resolutions, because we will need to come out of work session, go into a meeting? So they need to be noticed in a timely fashion, and they need to have the resolutions published beforehand, correct?
So for all intents and purposes, work session only eliminates public hearings and public comment periods. But otherwise, the look, feel, and idea of what a work session will not be much different than our regular meetings. They must be public. They must be they must be either broadcast and recorded. But otherwise than that, the only difference with a work session is that there are no public comment periods because there are no public hearings, and there are no public hearings to be had. So that's why it will look and sound and feel like a regular public meeting that we're used to. It's not an executive session, it's a work session, but it's just resolutions. And the other reason for the work session is that when we were passing, we found this, and again, the old board, new board, the old board knows it was very difficult for us to pass public hearing notices to be timely for the next Tuesday's publication. So this will now orient that the public participation will be on that Tuesday, the public hearings will all be on that Tuesday, but at the work session, we can speed through comments, we can trustee comments, we can speed through reports, we can speed through resolutions to really expedite the work.
I have one question, Brian. Can the public submit written comment into the record for
Yes.
work sessions? Okay.
Yes, and that's one of the ideas that we're talking about on the meetings, to allow written comments to be entered into the record, but written comments will not be read, especially if people are in attendance. So you want to encourage public participation, you want to encourage written comments, and the statement will be that written comments will be entered into the record and will be distributed to all the trustees.
Okay, but I mean, the one thing too is that I know that Southampton Town had a work session, I believe it was today, and they also had resolutions that they were passing. To do that, they had to notify the public that resolutions were going to be doing and publish then those resolutions for people to see. So it's not just, okay, we're going to have a work session, and okay, we're in the work session, but a resolution has come out of this, and now we can just go ahead and pass the resolution.
No, yeah, so on a work session for us, the meeting notice today is the schedule, and then the clerk will put out publish the formal schedule of the upcoming meetings for 2020, 2021. But again, the work session will talk, walk, and squawk just like a duck. It will have an agenda. It will have resolutions that are scheduled, and that resolution and those agendas will be out 48 hours before the meeting and will be voted on at the meeting.
Okay, good, perfect.
So we vote on the agenda for the meeting at the work session, is that correct?
Yeah, the agenda will be prepared. The trustees will submit whatever resolutions they want to put on. The mayor, 48 hours before the meeting, the agenda will be posted and published, and then we'll discuss any resolution items at that work session.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you, everybody. All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
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 Resolution number 5. I'd like to make a motion, resolve that the recording secretaries for the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Board of Architectural Review, Historic Preservation, and the Planning Commission continue to each be paid $200 for each meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution 6. I'd like to make motion to resolve that the treasurer shall deposit all monies received by virtue of his or her office as follows. Deposits into the general fund, trust fund, and capital reserve fund shall be made with BNB Bank. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 7. I'd like to make a motion to resolve that the treasurer is hereby authorized and directed to continue to deposit all village funds not required to satisfy immediate expenditures in interest-bearing accounts as allowed by law, and that these funds shall be deposited with the following institutions which have agreed to abide by village investment policy and the requirements of Section 2 of the municipal law and other provisions of law relating to the subject. A, People's United Bank. B, BNB Bank. C, MBIA/Bank of New York -class. Is there a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution number 8. I'd like to make a motion to resolve that the village investment policy dated March 25th, 2008 be continued in effect. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution 9, I'd like to make a motion to resolve that in the absence of both the treasurer and the deputy treasurer, checks drawn on village accounts may be approved only by the signatures of the mayor and a trustee or 2 trustees. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to make a motion to resolve that official travel by village employees or officials involving reimbursement by the village shall require prior approval by the appropriate department head or village administrator, except in the case of unforeseen requirements, in which case such travel may be approved by the mayor or, in the absence, the deputy mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 11, I'd like to make a motion to resolve that except as may otherwise be provided in the collective bargaining agreements, village employees traveling on authorized official business shall be reimbursed for use of personal vehicles at a rate not to exceed that authorized by the IRS. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Go ahead, Mark.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution 12, I'd like to make a motion to resolve that the Board of Trustees approve the adoption and continue the effect of the following policies. Continue to affect the following policies. A, Southampton Village Police Rules of Conduct. B, the Village Fraud Policy be continued in effect. C, the Village Fund Balance Policy be continued in effect. D, the Village Procurement Policy be continued in effect. E, the Anti-Harassment Policy be continued in effect. F, the Workforce Violence Policy be continued in effect. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Regarding the Ethics Committee, resolution number 13, I'd like to make a motion to resolve that Steve Leventhal, Esquire, be retained by the village to provide ethics training as necessary pursuant to a retainer agreement approved by the village attorney. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution 14, I'd like to make a motion to resolve the members of the Ethics Board are appointed as follows with terms of appointment to be at 2-year intervals. Christian Pico, June 30th, 2021. Linda Guessford, June 30th, 2020. Stephen Pfeiffer, June 30th, 2023. And Vince Zerbisky, June 30th, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Trustee Polaro, I know you do have some questions here.
Yeah. Just with regards to, I think you said for Linda Guessford, June 30th, 2020, it's June 30, 2022. But I also do have questions on and again, nothing against Linda, just should ex-staff members, I guess this would be more towards Brian, should ex-staff members be appointed in a position where other staff members may go to talk about ethical issues that they may or may not have? Does that prior knowledge, could it inhibit? And so this is just a question out of consciousness to our village employees that are currently working for us, and in a possible of a whistleblower or, bringing something to the ethics committee, could that inhibit? And Brian, I'd like just, if you wanted to give a quick.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really kind of a policy question for the Board of Trustees to think about. There is no explicit prohibition in the village. I was just looking at the code. There is no explicit prohibition in the village code with regard to a former employee to the appointment. But it is an interesting question. I wonder if on the flip side of the coin, just play devil's advocate, whether that knowledge might actually be beneficial to employees to have somebody who's actually been in the trenches and can understand it. But your concern is good too. Does it have a chilling effect of someone who maybe might know too much or be privy to certain things? I mean, the ethical board is the people who are the members of the appointed because they're ethical. We want them to uphold the highest standard of that for our village. So I would be comfortable if she's comfortable with serving on the ethics board. I would be okay with it. But again, it's a policy question for the board.
Maybe that's a question we can ask Steve Leventhal in the coming week or so to ask the council for that question, that clarification on that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have the same opinion, I think, that I'm going to have, because the code is clear. There is no prohibition. It's really just purely a policy question for the board on what the board's comfort level is of having a former employee serving on the ethics board.
I just want to follow up and ask, Mayor, did you clarify these terms with the prospective members? Did you discuss that with them before this agenda? I'm just curious if they're okay with it, with these term limits that you set.
I think it's another question for Brian. I believe the term infos are 2-year intervals,
Okay.
which is just pursuant to the general terms of the ethics board.
So, yes, so actually, they're staggered 5-year terms. But one of the questions that we had when this ethics board was constituted, they were originally constituted all on one term, meaning they were all coming on and off at the same time, which was not the goal of under the ethics code, to have them come off at staggered terms, so that not all of that collective wisdom goes out the door at the same time,
Right.
nor is it subject to any kind of outside or political influence. So the goal here is just to get a reset on the time of the terms, and then upon the expiration of these terms, appoint the members to then the full 5-year term under the code.
Okay.
Then it will achieve a staggering effect.
Okay. Great.
The only thing I would say is I'm comfortable with Linda, but if the board thinks it's appropriate to rescind Linda until we speak with Steve Leventhal, we can move her to the October 8th meeting. But really, it's open to the board, whatever the board would like to do. I'm comfortable with both options.
I think to defer to talk to council first. Brian, I trust your judgment, but I think I agree with Andrew. I think we should get a clarified second opinion on that first.
That's fine. Then if I can make a recommendation to the board, then let's appoint the 3 appointments. May I say Steve Pfeiffer? Let's make him a 2022 appointment. Then you really got the staggering of Mr. Picot, Pfeiffer, and Serbinsky of 21, 22, 23. Defer Ms. Gesford until the October 8th meeting, which then I'll have clarification. That's acceptable.
Works for me. Thank you.
Brian, would you like me to read the resolution over, or do we already have this in the record and we're fine with the revision?
I think we have it in the record. Mr. Picot,
Okay.
June 30th, 2021. Mr. Pfeiffer, June 30th, 2022. And Vincent Shabinsky at June 30th, 2023. With Ms. Gesford as a holdover until the October 8th meeting and appointment then.
Excellent. Trustee Pilar, thank you for pointing it out. It's a great point, and thank you very much for that. All right, with that said, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. We now move to the miscellaneous committees. So I'll begin by making a motion to resolve that in the interest of increasing efficiency, the following committees be abolished: Legislative, Executive, Finance, and Staff Committee, Special Items, Insurance, Municipal Association, and Taxes, Safety Inspection Committee, Cultural Center Liaison Committee, Emergency Preparedness Coordination Committee, Highway and Beaches, Parks Department Committee, Lakes and Ponds Committee, Wetlands and Beachfront Committee, Buildings Maintenance, Building/Streetlights Department, Central Garage Department, and Trees and Memorials Committee. So I made that motion. We'll have a second. I'm sure there'll be some discussion. We can defer that to Brian, but is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion on that, please, Mr. Mayor.
So Brian, maybe you'd like to just run with this, just to explain exactly the rationale here and why we did this and the definition of a commission versus a committee and what this is all about.
Sure. So the thought process on these committees were that, committees shouldn't have interminable portfolios where they need to have a mission, they need to have regularly made appointments and staggered appointments to get fresh new ideas on it. They need to have some mission where they have a goal that they're working towards as opposed to just a standing committee, especially when committees aren't made up of members of the Board of Trustees. And as I've talked about many times with this board, or the previous board, I should say, the concern is when we are very lucky in the village of Southampton that we have an abundance of riches with people who want to be involved in the village and the future. And it's a great thing, and it's very lucky and even more so unusual to have people who really have this volunteerism spirit to help our village. It's amazing. At the same time, we as members of the Board of Trustees and the mayor have the obligation to make sure that village government is as efficient as possible and doesn't get into where either there are dormant committees that are not going anywhere, or two, committees that are populated in such a way that don't necessarily advance the village's agenda for progress. So for instance, if you look at Congress, which might not be the most functional equivalent that's out there, but if you look at Congress, they don't have non-elected officials on Ways and Means or on those kind of the agriculture or Veterans Affairs. They are made up of members of Congress. That's the same kind of intent with the committees. And I think that some committees certainly have an extreme value. There are a few committees that are statutory in our village code, which will remain. And again, when those terms come up, there will be the necessary adjustments and appointments to those. And also, committees can be reconstituted, brought back, and or changed, or the membership changed, because it is a legislative prerogative, and the board can do that by resolution.
Brian, I have a question for you because there's a couple on here that I'm not sure if they were committees or they're departments, because Highway and Beaches, Parks Department, Buildings and Maintenance Department, Central Garage. I know Central Garage is a department. I don't believe it's a committee, and I'm not sure about Parks Department being a committee either, unless it was something that was put in there from back in the day. And to your point, the previous board did speak about making it more efficient and looking at these committees, all the way through to see which ones were being utilized in the most efficient ways. So am I missing something here, or these were just departments that somehow they're being wrapped into something else?
It's a very good read. This was taken verbatim from the 2019 reorganizational meeting, which again looks like something that was continued just from almost a legacy standard. Any of the departments of the village that are existing now are going to remain, but any oversight committees or otherwise are being eliminated. So to the extent that these were committees that had to exercise some kind of oversight over those village departments, they would be eliminated. So for instance, a central garage department, obviously the central garage will remain. It is an important part. That department will remain, but any committee of oversight that may or may not have existed at some time in history, we're abolishing that committee.
Okay, good. Thanks for the clarification on that.
All right, one thing, Mr. Mayor, just again, if you look at Central Garage, I'm looking at the committee list that we were given last time, and I don't see a Central Garage committee. So I'm not sure where that goes. And I appreciate, in speaking with you the other day, Mr. Mayor, where we discussed the possibility of shutting down some committees and making sure that, you asked that I work with Brian and with Charlene on this to make sure, and yet at no stage was there discussion that there was even going to be the thoughts of removing some of these committees. So, from my standpoint, I want to make sure that, have you looked at and done your homework with regards to how all of these committees that we are now, abolishing, how they were created, what purpose they were created for? Is there no longer a need for that purpose? And are we doing the right things to disband them? And the only two that jump out at me from looking is the Safety Inspection Committee and the Cultural Center Liaison Committee. And again, Brian, you mentioned that in some of these where there were outside individuals from the listing of the committees, Southampton Village committees, the only ones that were on most of this were government elected officials. So the Safety Inspection Committee was Kimberly and Mark. And I attended one of those meetings because Mark couldn't make it. And that one deals with our insurance. And I just want to make sure, Mr. Mayor, that you've spoken with Cook Marin, our insurance company, to make sure that by not having that, that we're not going to put ourselves at risk of having insurance premiums go up, because there was a lot that was discussed about, employee safety, markers and signs that needed to be posted around, in that committee meeting. And it was, the village administrator was there, our insurance company, the fire marshal. And so there was a lot covered in that. And I just want to make sure, again, that we're not putting the village at risk where we do away with it. And all of a sudden we're going to see an increase in our insurance premiums because it was something that was tied into it. So as long as you are very comfortable with the information and knowledge that you have, then fine. This is things that we should definitely look at. Also, with regard to the cultural center, that I want to make sure that we're not going to harm our cultural center with the board, the outside board that they have, that makes up and keeps them part of the village. So have you looked fully at the cultural center liaison committee? That again, those are the only two that I can see out of this that I have direct questions on, that I had some work with over this past year. The others, I don't know. I just hope that you feel comfortable with how they were established, the purpose for the creation, that they are no longer needed, and that we are disbanding them in the proper way.
Thank you, Trustee Pilaro. Those are all, great thoughts and good questions. I do have some answers, but first I'd actually would like to defer that to our village attorney, Brian Egan. So, Trustee Pilaro would like to know, for example, if we were to, abolish a certain committee, would that affect our relationship or our insurance premium? What would be the answer to that question?
So it's a good question. The Safety Inspection Committee generally is a function of our workers' compensation premiums. Again, like if there is a need for a committee to be brought back, the recommendation would be that this board sets that committee and sets that appointment and gives that committee a specific dossier. The concern was having dormant committees or zombie committees that don't really have a charge. So I think that as the need gets evaluated, again, we are on, D-Day plus 10 from 15 from the election, that as that need arises, this board can reconstitute some of those committees as necessary. But again, the safety inspect, generally the workers' compensation, they want multiple members on that. If that was going to happen, not just two trustees. So that will be a discussion we'll have to have with workers' comp, but we can always reconstitute that committee as necessary. With regard to the cultural center, I think that's a good concern because that's an asset that we own. So we want to make sure that we have it. I just don't know if anyone can name the members of who the committee actually are.
Thank you, Brian. I think that's a good point. And the other point, that we'd like to make is that's of course, the job of our new, village administrator to have that relationship with Cook Marin. And it's also the job of all of our trustees to check in with the cultural center and get involved. And it's also the job of our community. So those are my thoughts. But again, we have a very strong village administrator we're bringing in with a very strong treasury and financial background. So in my opinion, it's her job to have that relationship with our insurance carrier. And obviously we have our village attorney to advise us. But, at any point, our village administrator can meet with our fire marshal and with our mayor or with trustees or deputy mayor. And they could have those discussions. And as our counselor, Brian Egan said, if for whatever reason, we need to bring back those committees, at the next board meeting, whenever that might be, we can always bring back that committee if it turns out we really needed that committee. I would add again, for example, there's a committee, the Lakes and Ponds Committee. As Brian said, I'm not sure, if we can name who's on that committee, but we do have a very strong Clean Water Committee that's doing an excellent job. So, that's just the case of an example where we probably don't need a Lakes and Ponds Committee when we already have a Clean Water Committee. So I think I'm just kind of reiterating, some of Brian's points, but I do think those are really good questions, Trustee Polaro and
Can I, go ahead. Trustee
please,
Polaro.
I'm done.
Well, I mean, I want to make sure because I know for a fact that the safety committee reduces our premium from our insurance carrier. So if we today get rid of our safety inspection committee, but decide next week that it really is needed and stuff like that, I'd rather go the other way, personally. I'd rather strike the safety inspection committee, whether we know who's on it or not, because we don't know what impact it may have on the community. And if we get rid of that committee today, and all of a sudden, we find out our insurance premium is going to skyrocket because we don't have it, then what have we done for our village taxpayers? What have we done for our employees? And where is the thought process, the look through, the process of everything to understand how and best we can dissolve and disband the committees that we have. This is something I was that you had asked, Mr. Mayor, for me to look into. So, again, I wish I had known that 12 of them were going to be coming up on today's agenda for disbanding, because that to me, I understand we want to be efficient. I understand we want to do, but I also want to make sure that the process that we follow is one that is working. I would hate to see tomorrow, the village get a bill for an increased insurance premium because today we disbanded something that we really should not have done. And now we have to wait till next Thursday to reinstate it. But, oh, this is now a new committee just reinstated. Maybe we don't get the same carryover from having it for so long with our insurance carrier. And I just, again, I understand about efficiency. I understand about the interest and who's on it and where we are. But before we jump and make a knee-jerk reaction on something, let's please fully understand what we are doing.
Brian, do you have anything else to add here as far as, fully understanding, what we're doing?
A lot of villages do have the safety committee at the request of their insurance company. So that might be a good, I do like Trustee Polaro's point. Perhaps we adopt the abolition of the balance of the committees and retain the safety inspection committee. And this board appoints tonight, just to make sure that they're on to, or this afternoon, just so they're on to, good water. Why don't you appoint 2 members of the trustees, the board of trustees, to that committee?
I would also suggest the cultural center liaison, just so we don't, so we are not in trouble with the cultural center, as you said, as an asset of ours, Brian. So, I mean, those are the 2. And again, at some stage, if we can disband them and they are not necessary for the village, I have no problem disbanding them. I just want to make sure that we are doing it in the right way and the process is there so that we know with 100% certainty.
I think that's completely reasonable.
All right, I think that's very reasonable as well. We'll see. I would like to see if any other trustees have any comments, but I think we'll keep the safety inspection committee. Trustee Polaro and Trustee Parrish would love for you guys to kind of run that committee, and if it turns out we don't need it, then we could, disband it at a next meeting. And then if you'd like to keep the cultural center committee, fine, or alternatively, we can have our new village administrator evaluate the need for that committee. Ultimately, as our chief operating officer, it's her job to kind of help oversee it. We also have a full-time employee who also oversees the cultural center, and they also have their own board of directors. Perhaps why don't we just, really, I'm open to the board. Whatever the board thinks is best is also fine by me. It's a team effort here. So we can keep the safety inspection committee, and we'd be great for Trustee Parrish and Trustee Polaro to be the core members of that committee. And any thoughts on keeping the cultural center liaison committee? Personally, I don't know if we need it, considering how many people are already on the board there, and we have a village administrator that can evaluate it. But really, to me, it's the goal is here just to make village government more efficient and a bit leaner. But really, I'm open to what this board thinks.
Mr. Mayor, has the new village administrator looked at our committees and understands what they are? Has she already had a chance to look at them? And has she opined in on the closing of these 12?
No, she hasn't taken office yet, so I don't think so.
Okay, so I mean, with what the mayor is saying there, that we've got a village administrator who's coming in, and all of this, then again, as I said, I'm looking forward to working with her to look at all of our committees, you know, and see as I mentioned to you the other day, Mr. Mayor, looking at seeing what committees we need versus, and having them as potential task forces versus committees, you know, and seeing what committees there are and how things could work. So, you know, again, I look forward to working with her on that. I look forward to working with you know, our village attorney, Mr. Egan, on this as well. And again, I'm happy to be on the safety inspection committee. I'm happy to be on the cultural center liaison committee until we know definitely that we don't need them. And if we don't need them, then let's wipe them out and make government more official. But if it is something that, you know, and have Ms. Cagle come in and tell us what her thoughts are on it, and allow her to evaluate it and see. So yeah.
May I make a suggestion? And Jesse, I appreciate you wanting me to be on the safety inspections, but I think if I can make a suggestion to maybe put one of the new trustees on there with either trustee Pilar or myself. That way we can get the collaboration process going. That would be a suggestion I think would be a good way to start this movement forward together.
Let's turn that over to the new trustees, because ultimately, you know, the goal was to, you know, make our government more efficient and to abolish these committees. So let's, I mean, ultimately, Trustee Resta, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I think that as far as the safety committee, I have nothing, you know, against keeping that. I don't think that, as Trustee Pilaro stated, that we're going to be inundated. I mean, all the necessary steps are in place. I see that as an HR issue. And I think Charlene is very capable of, that is her forte. I don't really see that if you want to keep it, that's fine. I just don't think all these committees are necessary. I also think a lot of these are executive decisions, and I think that Charlene, as far as one with the cultural center, there's so many committees already, and they have their own board, and I think ultimately that's her decision if she feels she needs a committee there. I don't feel that that's necessary.
But let's split the difference and table these two committee decisions until Charlene is acclimated to the position and see what she says.
Yes, I agree with you, Joe.
All right, very good.
It could always be revisited.
Let's table those two committees and then see how you go forward after that.
All right.
So the motion
Well
is-
done, everyone. And sorry to cut you off, Brian.
The motion is to table the entire resolution, or just table it with regard to safety and cultural center?
Andrew, what do you?
Safety and cultural. I would just do safety and cultural. And I mean, in the interest of increasing efficiencies, again, more communication on this would have saved us however many minutes we've spoken on this resolution and discussion. So, you know, there in my mind is the efficiency of communication, transparency, and understanding and working together as a collaborative team to figure it out. So, I mean, I think it's great. We will keep those. And again, we don't need them. We get rid of them. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
All right. Well, good work, everybody. The other good news is that the less committees we have, the less time we're spending. It's just self-fulfilling prophecy on more efficiency. And so happy to do this work now. And I think that's great. So we'll basically remove the Safety Inspection Committee and the Cultural Center Liaison Committee from this list. And Councilor Reagan, if that's okay for the record, then we can
Now you just need to
move to a
you have your
quick
motion,
vote.
second, you need to
Mayor,
vote.
Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead, Gary, go ahead, sorry.
Just very briefly, trustee arrested today told me that basically our departments are staying the same. And when the agenda came out, a little people got nervous. So this agenda does not change any of the departments that report to the Public Works, you know, garage, et cetera. It's just the committees only.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to let people hear that. Thank you.
Thanks for clarification. So I will make a motion to table those two committees for the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So Brian, again, so we're good. So that resolution stays put minus the two committees.
Correct. So now you
Okay.
you have those two committees came out. Otherwise, as I understood, Trustee McLaughlin's resolution was that the balance of those, the abolition of those were moved and seconded and approved. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. The next resolution regarding miscellaneous committees, I'd like to make a motion to resolve that the committee, now known as the Affirmative Action Committee, shall hereinafter be known as the Diversity and Inclusion Committee.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'd like to make a motion to resolve that Sandra Dozier and Gerald Martin are reappointed to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee and that Mayor Jesse Warren and Chief Thomas Cummings are hereby removed from the committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mayor,
We
can I
now
ask you a
move-
quick question?
Trustee Paris, yes, thank you.
Regulatory boards, they're not on here as we're moving on to the mayor's appointments. Would they fall underneath that? It's just like the regulatory boards, ARB and the other ones, with some of their, that ran out June 30th. I don't see them on the agenda, as well as some of the people in Village Hall, deputy treasurer, deputy village clerk. Is that, sorry, we're going to get to when you come to your appointments, or what's going on with those? Because there's quite a few, because I looked at last year's org meeting and all those were laid out, and I'm not seeing them on this one.
I can let Brian mention this, but in an effort to make sure that our agenda was distributed quickly and to everybody, we made the decision to use our next meeting to focus on some of the regulatory boards and some of the appointments. But maybe Brian, if you can explain some of the rationale as well.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, this is a turnover in Village Hall with regard to the village administrator, obviously, and that's one of the main goals of this reorganizational meeting. And then all of those other appointees, we do need to make them. As a matter of fact, some of our regulatory boards need additional members. So what I encouraged the mayor to do was to gather candidates, and in advance of that October 8th meeting, circulate that to the trustees for their own ideas on candidates to put in, and hopefully get the consensus candidates, and then make those appointments. But all those other positions, they remain as holdovers until their next replacement is qualified.
Great, thank you for that. So they will be attended to at the next board meeting. All right, great. Thanks for sharing that.
And just one further discussion on that, and I'm happy about that because I think it'll have some people breathe a little easier knowing that it's going to be looked at. But we have our next meeting, I believe, next Thursday, the 8th, and our new village administrator isn't supposed to start until the 13th of October from when I spoke with her. How will things run for that meeting then? Because I know that she has given her 2 weeks notice to East Hampton.
Yep. So there's going to be a time of patience, I think, in working through these issues when someone new starts. But to the extent that any of the other positions don't report directly to her, such as the regulatory boards, those appointments can proceed. I don't see any objection to proceeding with any other appointments as well, especially if this board and the mayor get to consensus candidates.
Well, I mean, I would hope that the people that are in Village Hall today, you know, are being looked at for reappointments. Again, if that is not the case, then I would hope that, you know, at some stage the full board would be made aware of that, because I haven't heard anything.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Polaro. And just so you know, Charlene will be available at the October 8th meeting. And she also will be here on Friday as well, to go and start to get settled in. And
Friday
then,
tomorrow.
in addition, Trustee McGlack, I hear you. I don't know if you don't want to go on mute, but the last thing I was going to say is that I would like to invite any trustee to join me in any interviews that we still have a few resumes for some of the land use boards. And so, Trustee Pilar, I'd love for you to join me if you're interested in the interview process, and would love for you to meet the candidates. I know traditionally it's not something we've done in the past, but would love to include you in any way, and it'd be really great for us if you would also be open to interviewing some of the candidates. I think we have some good candidates and some resumes that came in, but would really appreciate it if you would be interested in also picking up the phone and maybe meeting them or speaking to them prior to the 8th meeting.
Mr. Mayor, pick up the phone. I'm available.
Okay, good. That's great to hear. Trustee McLaughlin, I know you had a
Yeah,
comment
sorry,
as well.
sorry, Mayor, just a point of clarification. So Charlene will be available tomorrow in the office, or is this next Friday you're referring to?
I know she's coming in tomorrow. I don't have her exact schedule, but I know she's coming in just to kind of get her bearings,
Okay,
and as she transitions over.
that's fine. Just my point of clarification, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McLaughlin. So I know we're kind of at a break here in our agenda. We're moving to appointments. So just for those who are watching, we're going to move forward to the mayor's appointment section. No further action is needed on the discussion. So with that said, the first appointment is I'd like to announce my appointment for deputy mayor for a term ending June 30th, 2021, and that would be Trustee Gina Aresta. Now, I'd also like for a motion. Congratulations, Gina. We're looking forward to working with you. And the next section is the next appointment. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the following department and committee appointments for a term ending on June 30th, 2021. Committee Budget and Finance, the lead trustee liaison will be Gina Aresta. The Youth, Minority, and Senior Citizens Affairs Committee, Trustee Gina Aresta. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Trustee Joe McLaughlin. The Village Improvement Committee, Trustee Mark Parrish. For our departments, for our police department, the trustee liaisons will be as followed. Trustee liaison Joe McLaughlin. Justice Court Department, trustee liaison will be Mark Parrish. For the fire department, the trustee liaison will be Trustee Joe McLaughlin. For the ambulance department, that will be Trustee Andrew Polaro. And for the public works department, that will be Trustee Gina Aresta. Is there a second?
Are we voting on that?
Second.
No one seconded it yet.
No, I know, but I'll second.
I think Trustee Aresta just gave the second. I don't know if you heard her.
Discussion on this, please. I have a couple questions, Mr. Mayor and/or Brian.
Trustee Parrish, Brian might have a few things to add here. I don't know, or you know what, it's fine. I thought Brian had some things to add, but prior to discussing. But Trustee Parrish, go for it. It's all you.
Just, can you explain to the public and to the board? I did not hear about the liaisons versus the commissioners, and what is the difference between a commissioner, which was something that, you know, I was a commissioner last year, and then we had deputies also, and the liaison. What is the difference between the commissioner and a liaison? And with like the signing of POs and how this goes about, what is it? Is it more efficient in your eyes? Is it something that, what does this do? Does it require a little bit more process involved when it comes to a PO? So I'm just trying to follow, because I wasn't aware of the change from a commissioner to a liaison now.
So it's a good question. I don't anticipate the PO process to change much, but really it's it's a title change in that commissioner is a little misleading because commissioner is not really a legal title. And this is more along the line, or the intention of this is more along the lines of adding the liaison title to then say, you know, then each department has a member of the Board of Trustees or the mayor who is essentially their spokesperson for that department and can report on it, can speak on it, can assist it, can to a certain extent supervise it or advise the department head in the administration. But it allows the department to act, to know that it's got one trustee that can advocate for it and work with it, and also in the reverse. So when the Board of Trustees has a concern with a department, and I'll pick on Gary because you know, he always does an excellent job. But if somebody wants to say to Central Garage that something needs to get done, or something in DPW needs to get done, or grass needs to get cut, they know what trustee is responsible for that as well as the department head. So I think that just the idea of that is to just put that designation on one of the trustees.
Thank you, Brian. So basically, it's really the same thing. It's just more of a, okay. And just on that, just to Gina, I'd be more than happy to help you and assist you with Public Works. I've worked with them for the last, 14 months and, driven with them, walked the streets with them, and I'd be more than happy to help you, answer any questions, tackle anything. And so please, it's a great group. So I just wanted to share
Yes,
that.
I met them all today.
All right.
Thank you very much, Trustee Parrish.
Thank you. And just to further that point, and thank you, Brian, for the answer there. And Trustee Parrish, that was a great question. The village does have two true commissions in our village code book, and that is the Veterans Affairs Commission as well as the Planning Commission. But it was prior to that, we actually don't have a, as Brian explained probably better than I'm doing, we don't have a commissionership of any particular department. So again, it's just the Veterans Affairs and Planning Commission as well. I don't know if there's anything else to add on that, Brian.
That's all.
Okay. With that being said, if there's no additional discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. So at this point, if there's any additional discussion items, we have a section for discussion items, but there doesn't appear to be any unless there's anyone on our board that would like to discuss anything. If not, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you,
everybody.
everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mayor.